Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to discuss about Java interview questions. Here we are covering some important interview question, and in this part we are basically covering the core concepts which will include OOPS concept, string properties, primitive types, immutability. So let's start with our first question. So what is Java? So Java is an object-oriented programming language, and the key features of Java it is platform independent, secure, high in performance, portable, and multi-thread language. And currently Java is widely used across different systems. So move on to the next question. What is Java Virtual Machine? So Java Virtual Machine is a runtime engine. Basically in JVM we execute our Java code, and JVM convert Java code into a machine independent bytecode. Then next is what are the different component of JVM. So the different component of JVM are class loader, runtime data area, execution engine, and native method. So class loader basically responsible for loading the class, and then runtime data area is where the data of class resides, like method area, heap, Java threads, program counter, and the execution engine basically compiles the Java code. It uses JIT compiler, and the garbage collector is responsible to collect the garbage data, and the native method. So native method provide a support of backward compatibility, like means using native method we can connect our Java code with the native languages like C, C++, etc. So that's it on the JVM component. So now move on to the next question. What is the Java class loader? So Java class loader is basically load the Java classes. There are three kind of Java class loader: bootstrap class loader, extension class loader, and system class loader. So bootstrap class loader loads the file from the JVM. Basically it load all the classes from rt.jar. And then the extension class loader, so it loads all the extension libraries, basically all the extension libraries which reside inside the lib/ext folder. And the system class loader loads the files from the class path. So system class loader is also known as application class loader. So these are the three Java class loader: bootstrap, extension, and system class loader. Let's move to the next question. So what are the Java class loader principle? So in the previous question we had discussed like the type of class loader, bootstrap, extension, and system class loader. How these class loader works? So they work on these three principles: delegation, visibility, and uniqueness. So in delegation, actually child class delegates the request to the parent class. So as I have mentioned here, like child class loader delegates the request to the parent class loader, and it loads the class only if parent class loader does not find the requested class. So that is the delegation property. Then second one is the visibility. So visibility means the child class loader can access or can see the file of parent class loader, but parent class loader can't see the file of child class loader. So that is the visibility principle. And the third one is uniqueness. So uniqueness, as name suggests, that a file will be loaded only once across all the three class loader, like all the three class loaders: bootstrap, extension, and application class loader. If a Java class loaded by a one class loader, then another two class loader will not load that file. So that's why this is the uniqueness principle. Yeah, means a file get loaded only once. So these are the three principal: delegation, visibility, uniqueness. On these three principal class loader works. So move on to the next question. So in this question we will create a custom class loader. So how we can create a custom class loader? So to create a custom class loader we have to extend the class loader class, and we have to override the find class method. So in the find class method we will basically we will pass the name of the class, and inside that we will read the content of the file as a byte array, and then we will pass to the superclass method, and after that we will get the object of class, and then using the reflection API we can simply execute the method. So here you can see the example. So I have mentioned an example here. So here you can see that this is our custom class loader. So here you can see we are extending the class loader and then overriding the find class method. Inside this method we are reading the data of this class in a byte array. In the load class data you can see we are reading the input stream. After the reading input stream, converting data into the byte array and then returning to it, and then here we are calling define class which is like a parent class method, and then define class will basically return the class object, and then here we are using the reflection API and invoking the object, and when we invoke the object, method will get executed and it will print hello mk_gender. So like this is the way how we can create a custom class loader. So let's back to our next question. The next question is, what is the difference between class not found exception versus no class definition error? So both are the runtime error, and the class not found exception occur when we are loading a class using the class.forName or the load class method. While using this method, then it will give a class not found exception. And the next thing is no class definition found error. So as name suggests, this is not an exception, this is an error. So in this case, when a class is present while compile time, and at runtime the class is deleted, or like it moved to another folder, in that scenario it will give a no class definition found error. So that is the main difference between class not found exception and no class definition found error. So let's move. What are the oops concept? So oops concept, basically we know that it's oops concept like works around the object. So here I have mentioned the basic oops concept. So the first one is object, then class, abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. So these are the basically oops concepts. So object, so what is the object? So object is a software bundle of related softwares, like related states. And the class, a class is a blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. And abstraction, so abstraction is basically we hide the detail of the class and only show the essential part. And encapsulation is wrapping up the data into single unit, so data will only be accessible via function, like the class member variable will not be accessible directly, only that they can be accessed via function or a method. Inheritance, so inheritance is basically fetching the property from the parent class to the child class, so that phenomena is called inheritance. And the polymorphism is like a single action can perform different types in different condition, like the overriding is an example of polymorphism. So that's it on the oops concept. Then what is association, composition, and aggregation? So association is a relation how the two objects interact with each other. So basically the association is like a four kind. So one is the one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many. So these are the type of the association. And composition and aggregation are the two form of the association. So in composition, actually composition is a strong association where an object contain another object. In the both the scenario, like one object contain another object, but the main feature in composition is like one object can't exist without its owner. Like one is the owner object and another is another object reside inside the owner, and that object can't exist without the owner. So like example, computer object contains display, so display can't exist without computer. So that's why this is like a composition relation. And if we talk about the aggregation, so aggregation is a weak association. In aggregation, both objects can exist independently, and computer and printer object both can exist independently. So like if we take example of computer and printer objects, so computer can exist independently, and also the printer have its own in existence. So here there will be a relation of aggregation. So these are the association, composition, and aggregation. The next question is difference between abstract class and interface. So we know that at abstract class, if we declare a class with the keyword abstract, so that class will be an abstract class, and we cannot create the instance of that abstract class. An interface is a 100% abstract class, and in another way we can say that an interface is a contract or protocol. So interface define a set of common behaviors, means the class implement the interface, agree to these behavior, and provide their own implementation for these behavior. Like interface have all the abstract method, and we have to provide the implementation for those abstract method. So all the method will be abstract and class variable will be constant in the interface. So interface, and one point to remember, like interface can extend multiple interface, and a class can implement multiple interface. Like interface can extend another interface, and while a class is implementing an interface, class can implement a multiple interface. And about the abstract class, so a class declared with abstract keyword is the abstract class. We can't create the instance of abstract class, so we know that we can't create the instance of abstract class, and because and why we can't create the instance of abstract class, because abstract class may have abstract method. When we create the instance of abstract class, so JVM will not know how much memory have to allocate for that abstract method, because that method doesn't have body. So that's why JVM doesn't allow to create the instance of abstract class. And the constraint with, so the few points, like constraint with the class is a class can extend only one class, and while it can implement multiple in interface. So this is a question like where should use interface or abstract class. So the condition is like if our class extend a class, so it can't extend another class, as Java doesn't support multiple inheritance. So that's why we generally avoid to use abstract class. It's better to use interface until it is like required. So here I have mentioned a link. You can go there and read the difference between abstract class and interface in detail. So let's move to the next question. So the question is, explain access modifier and their uses. So in Java we have four kind of access modifier: private, default, protected, and public. For the private modifier, so are accessible only within the class. Like we can't access the variable or the method which declared as a private. So default access within the package only. So default access modifier are accessible within the package only. And the protected, so protected can be accessed in the same package as well as outside the package only in the subclass. And the public modifier are accessed globally. So we can access the public variables and the method from anywhere. Now, so there are key points to remember regarding the access modifier. So first one is access modifier are applicable only on the class level member variable and the function. So if we declare a class, we can define a class using the access modifier, and also we can use the access modifier with the instance variable with the method, but with the content inside the method. If we declare a variable like local variable within the method, can't use the access modifier. So the second point is main class could be only public, abstract, final, or default access level. But the main class could not be private or protected, because as we know, the private and protected are more restrictive within the class only. So that's why if we declare a main class like private or protected, then JVM will not be able to execute the main class. So that's why we are not declaring the main class as a private or protected. It will be a meaningless to declare private and protected for the main class. And the third point we already discussed, that the local variable. So local variable in local scope, so that's how we can't use access modifier for the local variable. Only the final keyword can be used with the local variable. So that's it on the access modifier. Let's move to the next question. So next question is print a simple hello world program. So here we simply create a class that's main. Inside that we have create our main method, and then we are printing the hello world. So the few key points on this. So the main class can have only one main method, like the entry point. There will in the main class can have only one main method, and main method can be declared in a two-way, like via using as a string parameter or via using variable arguments parameter. But we can't use both. Like we can't create the two method, one for the string array and another for the like variable arguments. In this case it will give the compile time error. And main class can have overloaded main method, but not with the above signature. So yeah, let's see this with the example. So in this example, like suppose this is our main method, and if this, let's delete this. So we can declare main method like this using the array, or we can declare as a variable arguments. So this is the two way we can declare our main method. And if we want to use both, like the array and as well as variable arguments, so in that scenario it will give compile time error. You can see, because JVM treats both the method as the same, so that's why it's giving the compile time error. And next, if you want to overload the main method, so instead of using these two parameter, you can use anything else. Like if we declare this as a string in the parameter, so that can be simply we can use that. So here we can overload the main method in this way. So that's it. Let's move to our question. So this is about the hello world program. Let's move to the next question. So the next question is overloading. So we already discussed that how we can overload the method within the same class having the same name but with a different argument type. So in overloading there will be different methods in the same class with the same name and the different argument. So this is the first point for the overloading, and the second point is in overloading is that like these are the mandatory condition, like same name with a different argument, but yeah, like the argument must change, and for the return type, exception, access modifier, so there is no constraint on that, like the return type can be different or the same, and the similar with the exception, access modifier, so there is a no constraint on that. So the only constraint for the overloading is method name should be same and argument with bit should be different for the overloading. Let's move to the next question. So in this next question, let's explain about the overriding. So overriding is basically when we override the method of parent class in our child class, so that feature is called overriding. So there are few constraint in overriding. So those constraints are as follows, like argument type must not change. So in the overriding, method name must be same and the argument type must not be changed. The second point is return type can't change except covariant type. So the return type also we can't change the return type, but yeah, the return type can be covariant. Like if the parent class method return the parent type object, so for that type that object child class method can return a subchild of that return type of the parent method. So that can be happen. The third point is exception can be reduced or eliminate, like if parent class method throw an exception, so in the overridden method we can reduce the exception or we can completely remove that, but we can't throw a new or broad exception, otherwise it will give a compile time error. So this is the restriction in the overriding. And the fourth restriction in the overriding is access modifier. So access modifier can be less restrictive, but it can't be more restrictive, like in the child class method, like in the parent class method have a default access modifier. So for that method in the child class we can declare as default, protected or public. So in the overridden method the access modifier can't be more restrictive, otherwise it will give compile time error. So like you can see for the point 3 and point 4 it will give a compile time error. If we throw a broader exception then we will see a compiler error, and similarly if we will restrict the access modifier then it will again give the compiler error. So these are the condition in the overriding. So let's move to the next question. Does Java pass by reference or pass by value? So in Java we can only pass parameter by value. When we pass an object into a method, then we are passing the reference, not the actual object itself. So that's why when we pass the object within a method and if update the value within the method, so those value will be updated only in the method scope. Outside that method the original value will not be updated. So that's why it proved that Java mainly pass by value, not pass by reference. In the below example you can easily see that in this example we are passing the variable like int into the method main, like public protected static void main method. Inside that we are updating the value. So after updating it will print like 1 and 12, but in above main method like in our parent main method it will the value will not be changed, it will again print the 1 and 11. So that's why it's passed by value, not passed by reference. So let's move to the next question. So now the question is, what is boxing and unboxing? So boxing is basically converting the primitive type into the wrapper classes is called boxing, and the reverse of this process is like the conversion of wrapper classes into primitive type is called unboxing. So here we have mentioned like when we are creating a wrapper class like integer, so in this we are just pass a primitive value and it will be converted to the wrapper classes. So here you can see that the boxing is a wrapping up of primitive type to wrapper classes, and unboxing is converting wrapper classes to the primitive types that we discussed. And then the except character class, all the wrapper classes provide two constructors. So one take basically the primitive as a parameter, while other constructor take a string parameter. So in this example you can see that here we are in the first we are passing the primitive type, and in the second we are passing the string as an argument. So this will be converted to the integer wrapper class. So this is the boxing and unboxing. Let's move to the next question. So what is the output of below code? So in this code actually we are covering how the overloading happen and how the selection of overloading at runtime happen. Because in overloading there is a sequence, like first it will search for the exact match of the method. If exact match is not found, then the parameter will be widened to the existing method. So like an int become a long and this method, like the static void test long val will be executed, and in this program it will print the long. But suppose if the long is not present in that scenario, it will select the boxing and it go for the method which box the existing method, and in the last it will select for the variable arguments. So this is the sequence of overloading, like first the exact match, then widen, and then boxing, and the variable argument will be in the last. So this is the flow. So in this program the output will be long. Let's move to the next question. So the similar to the previous one, here we have removed the widen method and we have put the boxed method, and another is the variable argument. So in this scenario the boxed method will get selected. So here the output will be the integer. So this is on the output of this question. Next, move to the next one. So what is the output of below code? So in this scenario actually there is a sequence when the combination of boxing followed by widening happen. Like here we have declared byte I equal to 5. So byte first it will convert to the byte wrapper, like a byte object, and then byte object will be typecast to the object and it will print the object. So the output of this program will be object. Let's move to the next question. So in this question, similar to the previous one, here we have put the variable arguments only. So the sequence will be the same. Like first it will search the exact match, then widen, then box, and then variable arguments. So here it will execute this method, and the variable argument method get executed, and it will print var args. So this is the output of this program. Let's move to the next question. So explain immutability. So what is immutability? So immutable means if we create an object of immutable class, so after creating that object it cannot be altered. So that feature is called immutable. So all the wrapper classes are immutable, and the best example of immutable is our string class, because in the string if you create an object, so that cannot be altered after that. So so how we can create a mutable class? So to create a mutable class we need to follow these points. So first point is like declare class as a final class. So we have to declare the class as a final using final keyword. Then declare all the data member in the class as a final. So all the data member will be declared as a final, and then when we are setting the values to the members, so set only through the constructor, and remove all the setter method. Only getter method should be there. And the fifth point is like if your immutable class contain any kind of mutable object, then all the entry point, like while getting the value or while setting the value in the constructor, always store a copy or return a copy. Never store or return the original objects, otherwise the value can be modifiable. So in the constructor, never store the reference of the original object, create a clone of the original mutable object. So this is the way we can create the immutability. So the next question is how we can create the custom immutable class. So here you can see like we have created a class student, and we are declaring all the variable as a final. So actually this class also should be the final. The final is missing here. So final, all the member are final, and then we are setting the value through the constructor, and we are not providing any setter method, only the getter method are there. But here we can see that the data object is a immutable object. So to maintain the immutability of this class, what we are doing while setting the dob on the date, what we are doing, we are creating a new data object and storing the value on that. Like we are not storing the original object as it is, so that if original object get modified from another places, so our object will not be impacted with this. And similarly when we return the data object like get dob method, so here we are returning the new object, like a new copy of the object. We are not returning the original objects. So in this way we can maintain the immutability in our class. So this is all about the immutable class. Let's move to the next question. So what is intern? So intern is the property of a string, like if the object is already exist in the string literal pool, then the new object will not be created. So this is the intern property. So like when we are creating the object using a string str1 equal to mk study journal, like in this example, and the second object is again mk study journal. So in the string it will search the string literal pool and it will find that the object is already exist in the literal pool, then it will not create a new object, so it will simply refer to the existing object. So in this scenario the first SOP will print the true, because string 1 and string 2 are the same. In the second point, whenever we are using the new keyword, it will always create a new object. So that's why string 3 and 4 are different. So that's why it will print the false. And again the fourth point, like string 4 and 5, here we are using the default intern method. So it will return the intern behavior, and we discussed the intern behavior is it will check if the values already exist in the literal pool, then it will not create a new object. So it will violate the new keyword, and it will basically str5 and 6 will point to the same object, so it will again print the true. So this is the intern property. So next, that's it. Next let's let's move to the next question. What is the difference between equal operator and equal? So equal operator is basically a shallow comparison. It checks the object whether the object are the same or not, but equals operator basically check the deep copy, like it checks the exact value whether the they have the same value or not. Yeah, but in the default object class, the equals is also using the object to compare the each other. Like here you can see the default equal method java lang.object compare memory address, which means that all objects are different from each other. So that's about the equal operator and equals method. Then the next question is, what is static keyword in Java? So static keyword, as we had discussed, like using the static keyword we can create the variables, method, blocks and nested class. So using this we can create three kind of uh, structure in the class using static keyword. So we can get a static block, a static variable, a static method and static classes. So actually main class can't be static, we can create a nested static class. Basically a inner class can be created as a static. So few points for the static keyword, like for static member we need not to create the instance of the class, we can direct access with the class name. And we can overload the static method, but we can't override the static method. So although in the child class if we declare the same static method, so there will not be any issue, but this will not be a override, like this will not follow the override rule. So these are the feature of the static keyword. So thank you guys. Remaining question will be covered in our next video. So if you like this video, please subscribe and like.